Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Country Education Partnerships Free Professional Development. This is our last in a series of 4 for our summer series. My name is Tess Kelly. I'm the principal of Talbot Primary School and a friend of the CEP, and I'm pleased to be facilitating this session for you today. We would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to sea and community. We pay respect to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. So the focus of today's session is coaching and mentoring. But first up, I will hand to the CEO of the CEP, Mark McLeay, to give us an update.
Thank you, Tess. Guess you can hear me all right. I had a slight internet issues there for a moment. If I get a nod, wonderful. Thank you very much. Yes, excited to be here on the very last session for the year. It's been a fantastic year with PD Online. One thing I just want to mention, CP's really significant role is in the advocacy space. And within that, we often form consultative groups or representative groups around certain topics to meet with system stakeholders, education department. And just last week, we had a principal group meet with the building authority around teacher housing. So what I'll put out today to everyone watching this, if there is an area that you are particularly interested in and would like to have your name on that list to be contacted should the opportunity arise, please let me know. I can add you to a list and then reach out. So that could be anything from small school reviews to early years provision to clusters to buildings, SRP, cleaning, absolutely anything. And if you have a sort of key issue, we get a few people around that we can reach out. It's a way that your voice can get heard at the very top of the tree and actually get some change and action. So, however, I don't know that you're out there interested unless you let me know. The other great thing, as a follow-on from the Small School Forum, we've been putting together a small school one-pager flyer that small schools can have when prospective parents are coming to have a look. Often you'll get parents drop in when the principal of the small school might be out. It's some professional development. There might just be a grad teacher there or the business manager. So it's nice for them to have that one-page flyer, and the people at Small School Forum all had input into that. So that'll be released in the next week or two. One thing that's not on there, I just heard at the Major League Baseball finals in the US, it was $150 US to park your car. So at all small schools in Victoria, parking is free. Fantastic. And it's not $280 Australian to park your car like the baseball. On that ridiculous note, Tess, back to you.
Thank you very much, Mark. Okay, some housekeeping information for you. This is a 1-hour session. It will conclude by 5 p.m. The program is being recorded, so it can be reviewed at a convenient time by accessing it through the CEP website. Past sessions are also available online if you've missed a session. Anyone who has questions throughout, please use the chat box, which I will be monitoring. And we do put out a short survey that will also be available in the chat box. So please take the time to fill that in before signing off at the end. Okay, to our first guest presenter today, we have Dr. Julie Rowse, who is going to be speaking to us about conscious leadership. Dr. Julie.
Hello, can you hear me? And whilst tech worked to begin with, now we're not working for me. Tech's always great when it works, isn't it? Let's try that again.
That's okay. It did come up.
Yeah, but it didn't come up where it was supposed to. That's the issue.
Just while you're looking for that, I'll say that I did have a great session booked with Dr. Julie last week to talk about Lego, and I know you're not talking about that today. However, as a small school principal, I managed to be in the classroom and had to have another staff member talk to Julie. So it was still a great session. How are we going? You're almost there. We've got your
So
presentation.
are we good now?
Yes, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is it that it worked perfectly in practice and it did not work as well in real time? Anyway, thank you so much for inviting me to speak. It's fantastic to be able to be here virtually with you all online. My name is Dr. Julie Rowse, and I'm going to talk about, do you need a coach? So not Lego therapy, although I have a little bit of a taster at the end, Tess, about Lego therapy. I also would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land. Is this coming up okay? It's not coming up so brilliantly on mine. Yeah, we're all good. I'm on Wutherung land country today, and I'd like to pay my respects to their owners, but I know people are all around the place today. I also like to pay respects to my ancestors. I'm not Indigenous, but my ancestors made me who I am, and a number of my ancestors are actually teachers. So I have a soft spot for teachers and schools, even though I'm a mental health OT. Bit about me, Dr. Julie Rowse, and I am a mental health OT. I've worked for 27 years in OT, occupational therapy, and I wrote a book called The Mentally Fit Leader. So there is a QR code there if anybody'd like a sample chapter to find a little bit about the book. You're most welcome to do so. I wrote that book because a lot of professionals and leaders really do struggle with their own mental fitness and their own mental health. And so it's really important that we know how to look after that. The book is really practical and gives a lot of tips. So I love helping people to be mentally fit and thriving in their workplace so that they can achieve at their best. As you could say, I'm a little bit like a sporting coach. You know, we know a lot about sport. People in sport don't do it on their own. They usually have a trainer and a coach who's skilled in that area, who can work alongside them and work on those skills and abilities so that they're refined and can achieve in the sport. It's really difficult to just self-reflect and always be able to work it out on your own. A coach is brilliant to be able to have a little bit of a look and be able to point out some of those things. When I was growing up, ballet was my sport when I was a child. And I remember my ballet teacher and my coach used to say to me all the time, Julie, you need to work on your sickle ankle. You need to work on your sickle ankle. And as a kid, I don't know, I was excited about the costumes and having fun. I didn't really think too much about what does this sickle ankle thing mean. As an adult, as I look back at the photos in my photo album, I can actually see. So a sickle ankle means your ankle is not straight, it's off to a bend. It is so obvious in the photos. And a coach is someone that can really help you to refine and see those sorts of things and work on that. I think in a leadership position, coaching is amazing to help you to focus on your health and well-being, because often as a leader, you're very worried about the school, what's happening in the environment, students, teaching, learning, NAP plan, resources. There are so many things that you are looking after in a school that looking after your own well-being can often be something that gets overlooked, and that can really impact your performance. I also think in an environment where you work in a team, and schools are teams, you've got teaching, parents, students, there's lots of dynamics and sometimes very complex dynamics that can be happening in a school. I think that sometimes having somebody who's a coach who understands human relationships, dynamics, why people might behave the way they do, why people might think the way they do, and offer alternative perspectives is a really positive thing that can come out of coaching. And somebody who's got, you know, a lot of experience in understanding people and human behaviour is ideal for somebody in leadership in a school, for example, a principal, assistant principal, because you can see those different perspectives and perhaps be able to unpack a problem and go about it differently. So why does school leadership in particular need a coach? Let's have a look at some of the data from about teachers. Before we get into principals, let's look at some of the teaching data. So studies show that 75% of teachers are reporting some kind of stress, which that's very, very high. So if we look about, in Australia, mental health data suggests that 1 in 5 people experience a mental illness in their lifetime. But that's 4 in 5 teachers do in any given year. That's a very high stat, much higher than the average Australian. It's not surprising, really. If we think about managing a classroom isn't just one-on-one in an office like you might have in other meetings. You've got, 25 to 30 people who've all got their own individual needs. You need to be able to pull them together to be able to engage in the class. You also need to be able to differentiate the learning, because there will be different types of learning required for different students. You might have students with disabilities that have specific needs over and above that of the general classroom. You might also need to be supervising education support staff in the classroom, or navigating different people coming into the classroom to support you in your role. Then there's also managing parents. And parents are protective. Their children are their treasure, and protecting their children is their primary goal. And so they may be perhaps a little passionate and sometimes not overly appropriate. And that can be incredibly stressful to manage as a parent. Not to mention all of the requirements with planning and organisation and all of the things that come with organisation in a classroom. And reporting to teachers, reporting to principals and assistant principals in your role. New graduate teachers are at particular risk, I think, because new graduate teachers are coming out of university and they're still learning and can be learning on the job, and they look very much to school leadership for that on-the-job training. Even though they've got their degree, those practical strategies that you can really only learn on the job come from their school leadership, and they look to that. Which brings me to why we might have some pretty stressed out school principals. In fact, a recent study in March this year is suggesting that some of the harsh realities of being a principal are leading to 50% of principals thinking about actually leaving the job. And we've just talked about the stress in teaching on overall, but if leadership is so important in supporting those in the teaching profession, and we're losing half of them potentially, that's a really big issue for us as a country in terms of the education of our students and managing schools and ongoing management. So things like physical violence and threats. So we hear a lot on the news about behavioural issues in our community. Those things are playing out in our schools as well, and our teachers are not always equipped to know how to manage and handle those difficult situations. And there's a lot of challenges with cost of living. There is still a flow-on effect from COVID and people engaging back in education. We're doing a webinar today. Things are much more technology-based than ever before, and that's the case for our teachers. So there's a lot of pressures on school principals to be able to support their teaching staff, support the school, support the community, the parents, the students, and so many things for principals to be being able to do. The benefits of coaching actually provide a space where a leader, or in this case, a school principal or school leader, can have some short-term targeted work directly for them based on some of their personal goals. What is it that they're wanting to achieve? I think that can be a great opportunity to work on some of those soft skills. School principals don't get to that position without having some level of skill. They understand the importance of learning. They understand pedagogy. They understand differentiating learning. There are lectures people can do on budgeting. But things like looking after yourself are soft skills. It's not as simple as a tick list. What works for me and helps me to manage my mental health can be very different to other people. So whilst I might enjoy going for a walk or a long soak in the bath, there will be other people that would say to me, that doesn't work for me, Julie. I really need to go to the gym or go for a run, which it's not really my thing. Other people like to connect in with other people socially. But being able to build those skills so that you can be confident to manage your own mental health also then helps you to know how to help and empower your teachers and those who report to you to also manage theirs. If we don't look after ours, we're not so good at looking after others. I was a manager of a mental health team a number of years ago, and one of the things that I did in leadership that I have learnt from was I was so focused on ensuring that the staff in my team took their lunch break, and I was worried about them. I was the last person I worried about was myself. I didn't think about that. And it's the quickest way to hit the wall. I'll give you the tip. So I think it's really important if you're going to be helping others to manage their well-being so that they can function at their best, we need to be at our very best. Like I mentioned earlier, coaching gives new perspectives. Sometimes when we're in the middle of something, we can't see the wood for the trees. And having an external coach who is skilled in understanding people management, how people think, why people behave the way they do, can sometimes help you to unstick a situation that can seem really troublesome and you can't work out which way to move. And it can be a really beneficial way to see different perspectives and come up with different strategies to navigate that. As I mentioned, encouraging employee engagement and improving their productivity. New graduate teachers look to more senior staff in the school to be able to develop their classroom strategies and to be able to focus and learn the things they need to be able to teach and engage a class. They need to learn how to differentiate learning. They need to learn how to speak to parents at parent-teacher days. They need to learn lots of different strategies that you don't always get the experience to learn when you're at university. And so as a leader, being able to be on top of your game, being mentally fit and being able to support them is really important. When we feel confident and capable and able to do our job and manage our well-being, it supports employee retention rates. And it costs a lot of money. Not only is it not good for schools to have too high a turnover, it costs a lot financially. And so being able to retain good staff and have good stability in a school is so beneficial for the individual teacher themselves, the school teaching group, because as a group you can then work together to forward goals. It's better for the students who get a better education experience and families to connect in and understand how the school works. And it saves a lot of money. Every time you need to recruit, it's money to advertise, the recruitment process, ending employment with a staff member. It's a really costly experience. And so that gives it's really beneficial to the school. It improves in performance, leadership skills, and job satisfaction. So I do wonder, for those of you who have joined today or perhaps watching the webinar at a later time, where are you at? Are you just surviving or are you feeling overwhelmed? Maybe you know that you need to look after your health and you do a few things, but you're not really sure which things to prioritise and work on. Maybe you are performing and thriving, but you know that there's a lot of pressures coming up and having some coaching to get through those pressures might be a good idea. If you would like, there is a QR code there. There are 18 questions that you can fill in, and at the end you'll get your own personalised report with where you might be at the moment and 3 practical strategies. Free coaching right here. If you'd like to get some 3 practical strategies on how you can help yourself to move and into thriving, by all means have a go. And like I say, practical strategies that are simple and easy to embed into your life that can help you with surviving, and not only surviving but thriving. To become an intentional leader who is mentally fit and thriving, well, first of all, you actually need to recognise you're an important asset that needs to be looked after. So it's not just making sure that our classrooms are fit for purpose and that we've got the best smart boards and we've got all of the equipment and resources in the classroom, which are all very important, I agree, but you are also an asset. So we service the car, we get the air conditioning checked for the building so that it's compliant, we do all of those things. You are an asset and you also need to be looked after. Prioritising you and putting your mask on first. So we all know the story when we're on an aircraft and they're going through the safety briefing, they say, please fit your oxygen mask before helping others. After all, if we have no oxygen, we don't survive and we can't help anyone else. Whilst we might think that it'll be okay, I'll just push through. I've heard so many people say, I'll just push through, Julie, and I'll get to the weekend, I'll get to the holidays, sometimes we don't get there. Sometimes the body gives in, and that's when, you know, we might see, and I do see, teachers in leadership get repeated coughs and colds and sniffles and they're off work, or worst case, people actually have a significant health event that puts them out of action for a while. Let's not risk that. Let's prioritize you first so that you can stay performing at your best. When I work with people, and in the book that I was talking about before, it talks about 12 simple and effective strategies that you can apply to your life and your teams to be mentally fit and thriving. Knowing what to do can be really beneficial. Mental health isn't a destination. It's knowing the skills to be able to ride the roller coaster. And when you're feeling your best, you can then confidently lead others so that they can be high performing as well. So what do people say about working with me? This is Karen Stibson. I have had the pleasure of working with Karen for more years than we both probably want to acknowledge, but I love working with Karen. And Karen was kind enough to be a beta reader for my book and give me some feedback, so that was great. And Karen loves investing in her staff and knowing that employee wellbeing is really important to getting outcomes in the classroom. This is Deb. Deb has been doing some coaching with me for a number of years. Deb was at risk of burnout when I first started working with her, and now has a thriving business and she's able to sustain that across time. And she's also found it really beneficial for helping those key stakeholder issues. Like I said before, sometimes an external person who understands people and dynamics can unpack a situation in a different way and give different perspectives to find a way forward. So do you need a coach? Are you a leader who's questioning, you know, one of those principals who might be in the top 50% of principals that are going, is this really worth it? You know, I don't know, is all the stress and exhaustion worth it? I think that it's worth it. I think that school principals are amazing people and you change communities' lives. So if you need some help with that, coaching might be the answer. Missed lunch breaks, lack of sleep, long hours, they take their toll. Knowing how to manage and function can be really helpful to prevent that. Maybe your school is struggling with recruitment and retaining staff. So coaching might be something that can help look at some of the things that might be happening in that team environment to make sure that you keep the people that you want to keep so that you build that team. Supporting new graduates to stay in the industry is, of course, always super important. New graduates come out. There's a lot of pressure on new graduates. I don't know, you know, how long it's been since you might have started a new job, but even stepping into a new leadership role is very stressful. You know, getting coaching around some of that can be very valuable. Maybe you feel losing more experienced staff from the profession. So coaching might be something that would be beneficial for that. I did promise Tess that I'd come back to Lego-based therapy. Other coaching and opportunities, I want to help schools to retain good staff so that you've got great educational and learning opportunities for kids. Kids like us can't learn unless they are regulated, calm and able to engage. And so I love supporting teachers, education support, to know different strategies to help kids to be able to learn. So whether it's managing our own stress, whether it's using Lego-based therapy, which is a great program for helping students with autism spectrum disorder and social communication difficulties to be able to develop those social communication skills to be able to function in the classroom and be able to learn. Whether it's learning about the power of co-regulation. Like I mentioned, kids that can't emotionally regulate also can't learn. But co-regulation is a really powerful tool to help students to co-regulate to us as adults, hence why it's important to look after us, because if we can get them to co-regulate to us, they can also learn. And teacher toolkits, so emotional behavioural strategies that teachers can use and embed and use in a classroom to help all of the students to be able to learn. As I mentioned, I want to be helpful. So if this is helpful, you can scan the QR code. If you'd like to connect with me, you'll get a free chapter of my book. You can complete the scorecard. I have a newsletter that's roughly weekly with practical tips on how to be mentally fit and thriving. You can get the brochure about my intentional leadership coaching program, which is something you can consider. And as Tess mentioned before, anyone who's interested, I'd love to offer 20 minutes consultation where we can have a conversation about coaching or any of the other programs I offer, like Lego therapy, ways that your school could potentially be supported so that you can be mentally fit and thriving and you have a really great environment so that you love your job, the school is thriving, and all of the kids are learning. If for some reason you don't want the consult but you'd like all of the free things, that is fine. You can scan the QR code. If I send you an invite to catch up, you can just decline and say no thank you, and that'll be fine. And thank you so very much for listening to me. I hope that the information's helpful. Really happy for anyone to follow up with me, and thank you so much for your time.
Beautiful. Thank you, Dr. Julie. You've just wrapped that up amazingly, but put so much information into there at the same time. And I definitely have been one of those principals who has said, I just need to push through to get to the holidays, to get to the, yeah. So thank you very much. I will look at the chat that has got a few things in it, but what I'll do now is introduce our second speaker. We've got Josh Valeri, who's a director of BTS Spark Australia, and their mission is to provide every school leader with access to world-class coaching and leadership development at not-for-profit prices. That is a pretty great mission. Josh, welcome.
Unmute myself. Hi there, everybody. Thanks very much for having me, CEP, and thanks, Dr. Rowse. That was great. I'm a big fan of coaching for educational leaders, so it's great to hear the mission that you're on. My favorite part of your presentation was telling leaders, recognize that you're an important asset. That is so crucial. And I feel like educational leaders think about everyone else before themselves, which can be, I mean, it's admirable, but it can be a bit damaging as well on a personal level. So it's just such a great message. I'm so glad you said that, and I've written it down. So I'm going to be quoting you. I've got a little bit of time to talk to you about AI and human coaching today. Before I do that, I'll just acknowledge that I'm living and working on Whadjuk Noongar country on the western side of our continent, and pay respects to elders past and present. Extend that respect to any Indigenous person present today or watching later on. I want to talk about AI and human coaching. Don't have long, and I'm going to fly through these slides because I actually did an hour-long version of this last month, and in a few weeks I'm going to show some practical tools around AI in the professional learning space. But before that, I'm just going to show you a little bit about BTS Spark to just set the scene. So our mission is to provide schools with access to world-class leadership coaching at not-for-profit prices, as was already mentioned. So thank you for that. And yes, I think it's a great mission. We're a not-for-profit practice. We've got over 300 coaches worldwide. We've coached over 25,000 educational leaders across the 10 years that we've been in existence. And we partner with education organisations worldwide. We're part of a broader company. So we're the not-for-profit practice of BTS, which is a global leadership consultancy. These are some of their 2024 awards. And we support school systems with lots of big issues. These are the four main ones: coaching and mentoring skills, leadership development, wellbeing support, and system change. And one thing that's been coming up a lot everywhere, but also for us in recent years, is AI. So a question I've been asking is, are you and your team using AI for professional learning? I hear educators using AI in the classroom a lot, but what about for professional learning? And what about, as Dr. Rowse was saying, for improving yourself, your important self as an asset? And if so, how? So before I get into that, I just want to stress that someone asked me the other day, so you're just going to replace all your coaches with AI, are you? And the answer is absolutely not. We really value our coaches, and I don't see a future in coaching that is not deeply human. So we take our coaching really seriously. We base all of our work on a research base. So those 150,000 coaching conversations come from the broader BTS company, 25,000 plus of which we only just ticked over a couple of months ago, specifically for educational leaders. We've captured some of this data into some books, one being the 4 Greatest Coaching Conversations, and a more recent one authored by head of BTS Spark North America and also our global director, Rosie Connor, Embracing Messy Leadership. So basically take all of the data and insights we've gathered from all of these conversations and turn them into simple, memorable, practical tools, which underpin a lot of our leadership. So we've got 33 leadership modules that can be delivered either as one-on-one coaching, group coaching, facilitated workshops, online learning, and continue practice and learning journeys as well. And it's in those learning journeys that we're starting to bring in some AI-enabled learning tools. An example is one that I'm about to show you. I'm not going to show you inside the learning management system because that'll take too long. I'm just going to show you a little snippet of a video from this course here. So this is our course called Speak Like a Leader, and it helps with confidence in public speaking, which is kind of difficult to do in a self-paced learning course, right? You kind of need to practice. And so that's where the AI comes in. So within this course, we have a practice lab. There are 4 different ways you can use the practice lab. AI role play. You can choose a persona, give them a topic, and basically have a conversation, or even if you want an argument with the AI bot. You can do a video Q&A with some preset questions. You can upload a video you already have for analysis. But what we're going to look at today is Practice Mirror. And we're going to hear from Alyssa Gallagher. Now, if I have trouble with the video, just bear with me. I might have to stop my share and reshare it again, but let's see how we go. And I'm just going to fast forward 2 minutes into this video. Can everyone hear the audio there? No, you can't hear the audio. Okay, I'll stop the share and try this again. Because I did click that icon that also share tab audio, share, window. No, when you click over to window, it unticks the share audio box. Of course, that something like that was going to happen. So I've now ticked that, share.
Hi, Alyssa here from BTS Spark. Welcome to
Beautiful.
Virtual Sapiens, your AI tool.
I'm just going to fast forward a bit in the interest of time. Here we go. We'll go from here and we're just going to listen to Alyssa for 2 minutes demoing Practice Mirror.
Spark and the work that we do. I'm going to choose not to save my video at this time. I'm going to select a camera and a microphone. So I'll go ahead and do my default laptop settings. And so I'm not overwhelming everyone with multiple videos, I'm going to close out here of this video and go ahead and get started with my practice mirror. Now in the practice mirror, I can choose whether I want to actually see myself while I'm talking. I can also choose an audience view. So they'll give you sort of a view of what an audience might look like. So it depends how you want to practice. And then I can also select, am I practicing this for a virtual audience or an in-person audience? Now, because I'm actually doing this for virtual, I'm going to select that. And I'm going to go ahead and start my practice. So you'll notice it does take a minute to load the tool. It's not recording yet, but it will go ahead and record now. Hi, my name is Alyssa Gallagher. I co-lead BTS Spark America. And BTS Spark, we're a not-for-profit organization. We focus on growing and developing school leaders. Really everyone from sort of very beginning, emerging, aspiring leaders all the way through the superintendency. And what we do is we specifically focus on developing leadership skills in leaders. We like to focus on what we call the human side of leadership development. And typically we do this, we have a variety of ways, but typically we support leaders through executive coaching, either one-on-one or small group coaching. Now, we also provide a lot of webinars, we provide in-person workshops, but really all focused on capacity building and developing skills of leaders. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and end my practice and we'll see how I did. Now, that was totally off the cuff. I wasn't using any notes, and I can see here that my results are in. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on results. And as it's loading, there's a couple of different ways to analyze your results here. So you can see audience perception, and I can see, first impression, framing, perceived trustworthiness and rapport, authority and impression, and expression and energy. So in any one of these, I can scroll down and get very detailed feedback. You can see here that I didn't have enough hand gestures. So if I wanted to correct this, I could click on it and get some tools and insights. The other thing that I find extremely helpful is I can go right into my transcript analysis, and it actually transcribes everything that I said. It will go ahead and highlight for you either repetitive phrases, sentence starters, filler words. So I can see here, wow, I actually started another sentence with and I had a lot of uhs. So this is really helpful when you're working to improve your public speaking. Now, another way you can analyze this is I can select a category. So I could select, do I want feedback on conciseness, storytelling, empathy, levity, or persuasiveness? Always kind of interesting. I'm guessing that I'm not the best. Let's click levity here. I'm guessing I'm not the best in adding levity to my speaking, but let's take a look. So you can play around with this. And they're giving me, what went well, but also areas that I need to improve, that if I was looking for that, I didn't have playful language, and some ideas to consider, and perhaps some suggested rewrites. So you can imagine if you were, you are gearing up for an important presentation to your board or your parent community, this is a great place to practice your speech and get immediate private feedback.
So that's one way of using the tools here in this course. And we're starting to see in some learning designs that our team are developing that we're starting to not just offer the course on its own, but break down some of the features of the AI practice features and putting them into broader programs. Probably don't have time to talk about our leadership point of view, but I'll get to our reflections on AI and human coaching. So I just showed you one tool. We've got other tools, and I've also got a webinar coming up. If you want to go to the BTS Spark LinkedIn page, you can register for that in a few weeks' time. But I think the thing with AI is it expands access, but it enhances but doesn't replace coaching. It definitely needs human framing. Coaches need a little bit of AI literacy as well to be able to understand what they can bring into their practice and leave their coachees with, so they can practice without a human coach, because it's not always feasible to have a human coach. It's costly, and sometimes for things like practicing a speech, you're probably a bit too self-conscious to do that over and over again with a human coach. But also the human connection remains the differentiator. So I guess my main takeaway here is what we're learning is that AI makes professional learning more accessible and efficient, but coaching keeps it human, and together they make growth both scalable and deeply personal. I've added a little Michael Fullan quote here because I think it's kind of similar to my work in digital transformation, that pedagogy is the driver, technology is the accelerator. You could replace pedagogy with coaching there, I think, as well. Now, in that webinar that I told you is coming up, we're going to look at a little bit more at the Speak Like a Leader AI tools, but we're also going to look at practice bots. So we have bots that can be customized to simulate any difficult conversation. So handling pushback, executive presentations, backing your judgment under pressure, might be a difficult conversation with a parent or a colleague. And the idea is that rather than what we just saw with Alyssa, where it's a one-way thing, you say the thing and then you get the feedback, it's actually a bot that talks back to you. And it's a lot more realistic than you would imagine, and it gets you into this practice space that I don't know if we've been able to get to that before without role play with another human being. I mean, you can do it in a mirror, but the mirror doesn't talk back. You can record a video and analyze it, but the idea that you can have a practice conversation with a bot is something that I think is pretty new. We recommend that these bots become part of broader programs rather than standing on their own. But I'm looking forward to showing that in a subsequent webinar. As I said, you can go to the BTS Spark LinkedIn page to get a registration for that. That QR code there takes you to the registration page for the Speak Like a Leader course that I just gave you a very quick look at there. And there's more information there as well. Thank you very much. I really whizzed through that and I still managed to go over time, but I appreciate your time nevertheless. And if anyone wants to reach out to me, please feel free to do so. My email was on a previous slide there, and you can also find me on LinkedIn. Thanks, everyone.
Josh, that's amazing. To think about using AI with the coaching, it's not something that I've considered before, but you're right, it would just enhance it as long as we keep that human element. I do like the idea of the practice bots for difficult conversations, because sometimes they're not something you want to practice with people, potentially, especially if you know, and I'm sure that there are principals out there who would say they know something's going to be a difficult conversation before they get to it. So amazing, and thank you. And you've given me another book to add to my to read list as well, Embracing the Messy Leadership, which is I've heard good things about. So thank you very much for all of your information. Mark, you and I are going to have a little bit of a chat now about mentoring or mentorship and its value to principals. Did you want to start off?
Thanks, Tess. I guess I was really just going to relay my experience and how important the relationship is, and with the coach. And I think you can often pick that up sort of very early. I've had tremendous success. I've had training as a growth coach as well, but I've also had a couple of relationships where it wasn't working. So just sort of quite keen to hear from Julie. Josh as well, but Julie, when you start a coaching relationship, do you ever have those situations where it's just sort of not working, and then how do you address that then as the coach?
Yeah, I agree. I do think that there needs to be a good fit with a coach, because often in a coaching session you are talking about vulnerable information, which is why I can see why AI is going to be good, Josh. People who don't want to talk and share that vulnerable information may well be willing to do that in AI. And I know that there are other pockets where people are going to AI and having those conversations with AI already, not as friendship even. But I think as a coach, the other thing we need to remember is a quality coach is also mindful that they're there for the person that they are working with. So being able to let a coach know what you prefer as a learning style, what's important to you, how you learn. And some people might not be familiar with that, and a good coach will hopefully help you be able to draw that out. I usually bring a fair bit of humour and energy to what I do, which most people really like. People like that we're having difficult conversations, but they can still get, some lightheartedness throughout it, even though it can be difficult. But I'm also mindful there are people that I work with who are much quieter and need a much more reserved, take it quiet approach. And I think a good coach should also be able to help adjust that and get that feedback. In the event, though, that you've expressed to a coach what you need and that coach isn't able to adjust, they might not be the coach for you, and that's okay. So having an initial conversation and seeing if there's that connection to start with before committing to a coaching program is a really good idea, which is why I'm quite happy to have that sort of 20-minute consult with people. You generally get a feel in that meeting as to whether you're like, oh, I could work with that person, or I don't know that we're the right fit. So I think a good coach should also be happy to have that initial conversation so that you can work that out before delving in and going, I've got the wrong person.
And Julie, before Tess jumps back in, Just in your experience with principals, the when and the where is so critical. You just made me think about that. What do principals generally choose? Is there a sort of common time of day they choose for sessions, or do they choose to go off-site, stay on-site, or does it vary?
I think all people are really different about that. Yeah, so some people are happy on site, some people prefer it virtually. I think that's all very unique. I think that's one of the things about, even when I talk about different strategies that work for people, I was talking about mentally fit strategies, there are principles that we know work. It's kind of like your education. There are principles that we know work for teaching large numbers or teaching comprehension. There are principles that we know work, but every student is different. School principles are the same. So I think it's about listening to the person, and that's what a good coach does. They're perceptive, they're able to listen and gather that information and work out what works for you, and then help guide you. One of the things that I find fascinating is when I get the opportunity to observe classrooms. I do a bit of that, observe classrooms and give feedback to the teachers to help them with some of the difficult students. And I'm always amazed. I sometimes go in, and when I give the feedback, I'll say, "Oh, I loved how you used the first then language strategy, and I love how you used these 3 things to regulate the class when things were getting a bit out of control. And I love it." And often teachers say to me, "I didn't even know I did that." And so it's remarkable how often that happens. They're doing a fantastic job, but they didn't know what they were doing is working or what was working. So sometimes it's saying to them, in the beginning of the class, you were using these strategies and it was working, but an hour in and you were tired. These are the things you dropped off because you were tired, and that's when it got wobbly. Ah, I said, but I know you know how to do it because I saw you do it earlier. So even being able to provide some of that feedback can be invaluable. And so coaching doesn't mean that people don't know things. Sometimes coaching is actually helping you recognize the very things that you already know and how to help embed it in other aspects of your work.
Yep.
And Josh,
No, go,
I was
Mark.
just going to say, Josh, principals keep really odd hours as well, so that I'm excited that AI opportunity that could be 11 o'clock at night or 6 in the morning. They're doing that.
Yeah, definitely. I've put that to a few principals, and that has definitely come back. That sometimes you just don't. It's not just that they're keeping odd hours, but they're so busy that they don't have time to practice that thing until their own kids have gone to bed. By that time, it's 9:30, 10 o'clock. They've got to get the house in order, and then with a little bit of time left, yeah, you can practice. But I'm sure even the most well-intentioned of coaches, including the coaches we have at BTS Spark, and maybe even yourself, Julie, probably not going to want to get on a call at 11 p.m. with no notice. So, yes, it can play that role too.
Sorry, Tess, over to you.
No, absolutely. And all great points. I know that I've had many coaching sessions and also worked with mentors as well. And for a small rural school prin, I've had sessions in the car. We do drive all over the place, so I've been able to use the phone, but also I'm one of those prins that likes to access it early in the morning while the school's empty, and just have that quiet, peaceful time to focus on me, which is great. Okay, I'm just looking at the time, and it's probably close to Mark. You were going to introduce us to Terence Keeler, and we're going to have a chat about the Principal in Residence program.
I don't think he's there yet, Maddie.
I'm speaking to him right now. He'll be joining shortly.
Okay. Tess, probably time for one more question or comment from you.
One more question or comment. So, Josh, going back to yours, I know that you said that AI just enhances it, but the importance of the human aspect is there. Can you tell me more about when you have those passionate parents that Julie mentioned and you have those difficult conversations? Is that something that could be used, or your coaching could be utilised to work with that? That's a hot topic for us here at the moment.
Yeah, so I think My position is at the moment is that we go with the human first. So human coaching is always the default choice, because a human coach can have that dynamic conversation that could go anywhere. And I also mean not just with a particular framework like a growth mindset framework. A skilled coach will bring in all sorts of different frameworks and evidence bases into a conversation, and it can go anywhere at any time. It's a dynamic conversation. Where the AI tool can help is where a coach has identified a particular area of need for the coachee, or the coachee has enough of self-awareness to understand that they need particular help with a particular conversation. And a bot can't have a dynamic conversation. That bot is programmed within an inch of its life to only have that one conversation. So it's really stuck on its rails. So it'll be the angry parent or the change averse colleague really well, but it won't do anything else. So you need to leave that bot and enter another bot to have a different conversation. So the human will give it the dynamism and a proper coaching experience. The AI tool will give it one example of a conversation that they can then practice over and over again. I think there's power in both. If I had to choose one, it would definitely by miles be the human, but AI has this particular place that I think we need to start considering more.
Thank you very much for that. Julie, did you have something to add on to that?
Yeah, no, I think that Josh explained it really well in terms of that dynamic. And so I think one of the things that coaching can do is help bring different perspectives. Coaches have generally worked with many, 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 many people and understand their motivations and what's happening for them. So sometimes when we're trying to get information across, we can not always understand where a parent might be coming from or how we can connect with them in unique ways to bring them on side. So I think that's where coaching can be really fantastic. And I've even been in positions quite a few times where I've not been a mediator, but in a sense been in the middle of a school and a pupil and their family to help each side see each side. And often then you can unstick both sides and progress forward. So I don't think AI's got me just on that yet.
Okay, I'm sure Maddie will jump in and tell us when Terry checks in. But a question for you, Julie. The slight difference between the coaching model and the mentoring model, where does that sit, or do you flow naturally from one to the other as needed?
I feel I flow between the two.
Yeah.
And I do that, so even when I run, so I also do group leadership programs. I've, in one of the schools I can think of, I ran 8 sessions across the year doing leadership, and it was a real combination of coaching and mentoring. So I build in giving people the opportunity to explore where they're at, but also bring that skill development at the same time. So I feel that I have a bit of a blend. I'm not too purist when it comes to that. And I think that's what, when Josh mentioned before, a coach comes with lots of different experiences. Having worked for 27 years, I've got cognitive behavioral therapy, I've got acceptance and commitment therapy in the background, I've got merit and family-based therapy. There's so many different things that I can draw on, depending on the situation that I'm in.
Lovely, thank you. I know from experience, Mark, that I've done 2 rounds of the mentoring through the Victorian Academy, and they have been valuable to me in different ways. One was starting off a new position as a principal in a new school, but one was also, I'd been at the school a couple of years and just had a few things going on. So they had a different focus, but the mentoring program through the Victorian Academy was very worthwhile, with very experienced, recently retired principals who sort of knew the context, and we were able to have a chat before we, agreed to the terms.
Thanks, Tess. I can probably talk a little bit about what Terry was going to speak about, and hopefully he jumps in, or might have to ask Alyssa to answer a question, maybe, if she's got her audio on. I'm not sure. She might be hiding.
And just before you do that, Mark, I might just remind people that the poll is in the chat for feedback. So please fill that in if you can.
Thank you. So this does flow from our content today in the role of principal. When you've been an experienced principal for a number of years and perhaps been at one school for a period of time, you might be looking for another opportunity just to do something different, a chance to put your expertise into a different field. And the Academy of Teaching and Learning's Principal in Residence program certainly does that. And Terry Keeler, who we're trying to get on, is principal at West Primary School and has stepped away for 2 years to do the principal residence program. So applications close on 12th of November, I see. You can go to the Academy sites or to LinkedIn to see the details if that's something you're interested in. I believe it can be a slightly hybrid model where you can work from home, I think 1 day a week, possibly. There is an expectation to be in Melbourne the rest of the time. So if you are remote, it might create more of a challenge, but I think if you're within 3 or 4 hours of Melbourne, you could make it work. We do have Alyssa on. I don't know if she wants to speak. She's not going to be. Oh, there she is. Alyssa, I don't know if you want to speak about what it's done for Terry, like professionally, being able to step away from being at one school for a long period of time.
I really hope he's not online listening, but from our perspective, or from my perspective, I'm Alyssa Keeler, I'm actually Terry's wife. He got to a point where he was burnt out and he was tired. He loved his job, he loved his school, but he was just finding himself in a rut, I guess, and just doing the same things. And he'd been in that role for, off the top of my head, 16 years or so. So he'd been in there a long time, and this came up, and it was a huge shake-up for our family. But for him personally, it's done amazing things. So he's at the end of a 2-year cycle. Originally, I think it's a 1-year commitment, and then there's a possibility of it going a bit longer. But for him, he's had the opportunity to work with so many amazing people to reinvigorate his love of his school and his kids and what he does, just in a very different way. That I guess it's really lucky for him to have that opportunity.
Thanks, Alyssa. That's exactly what we want to hear. So there might be someone watching this, whether you apply for next year or could be something you want to consider for a future career path. It's really a chance, as Alyssa said, just to almost take a circuit breaker and to put your expertise, a chance to give back to the system and to just have that time away, probably from the high intensity role that a principal's role is. And in Terry's case, it's re-energised him to go back to his school, and the majority of the principal in residence that I've seen end up back at their school with a fresh set of eyes. So thanks, Tess. We're heading towards 5 o'clock. It looks as though Terry's had some technical difficulties. We thank our special guest presenter, Alyssa Keeler.
Thanks,
coming
Alyssa.
on.
We'd like to also thank Dr. Julie Rowse and Josh Valeri for coming on and speaking with us today, and you've given us lots of resources and contact details to follow up with as well. So thank you very much. I'd like to just mention that this is the final session of our summer series. All of them are online to watch the recordings if you would like to. What will be coming up next year will be our autumn series. There'll be 4 sessions in that, and I know that the CEP professional learning planning team are coming together soon to make sure that that series is really exciting for everyone in 2026. So please don't forget to hop on that poll and give us some feedback. And that's the conclusion of our session. So thank you very much to everyone.
Tess, I'll just jump in and thank you for jumping in for Brendan and Morris. And I wish we'd spoken to Josh earlier. We could have just had AI versions of Morris and Brendan, but that's where we might head to Thanks, Leonie.
Perfect. We'll think of that next time. We'll practice with some AI presenting. All right.
Thanks, Tess.
Thank you,
Back to you to
everyone.
say goodbye.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, and bye-bye for now.